Alright, hey, so if you're watching this, I have, my daughter has either continued with the sickness that she's had all weekend, and I am out being Dr. Daddy, or I have also succumbed to the same sickness. Yeah. But the big thing is I'm not here today, and I wanted to keep you going on material. Now, we were scheduled to have a review for your test tomorrow. If you're watching this video, it's been pushed to Thursday. Alright, so yeah, cheer, applause. Okay. So yeah, it's been pushed to Thursday. That's fine. We'll get to it, but we just have to move on with other material today, and then we'll review tomorrow or Wednesday, really depending upon how that works out. The reason why we're doing it on Thursday is so that we can keep on the schedule to make sure that everybody's not taking 2 or 3 tests on the same day. All right. So we'll push it to Thursday and make sure that holds. I don't want to overload anybody with 3 tests on one day. But we do have to move on with material then. So again, test Thursday. Let's get into the next unit. So, what we're going to do today is we're starting a new unit, and this is an interesting unit for the United States because we are doing something that we were founded to not do, but now we are. And I know that's kind of cryptic, kind of mysterious, and I want to keep it like that for a second because there's a couple activities that you're going to be doing here in a minute, one that you see in front of you, that are going to explore this. And if I tell you what's going to happen, if I tell you the unit, it's going to give it away. But here's what we're going to do. You need to answer this prompt. So you can get together with a partner and discuss it, but I need you to really put this on paper. I need you to give me a list. Right? What does a country need to have to make the jump from being a regional power, being the biggest and baddest in the area amongst your neighbors, to becoming a world power, somebody or some country that is influential in other people's affairs halfway across the world? Right? So what do we need to make that happen? And here's where I'll ask the sub to go ahead and pause the video so that you can work on this. You have 10 minutes, and then we're going to get back. Alright, so hopefully you've been able to really tease out some of the important things here. You're going to need resources. Alright, hopefully a lot of people put, you got to have resources. You got to have, especially when we've industrialized, you're going to have iron, you're going to have coal, you're probably going to have oil, you're going to have some stable currency, so it's good to have gold and silver reserves. Timber is going to be a big thing. A farming community. You're going to have enough food to be able to feed your people, or you're not going to be very powerful at all. But also, trading those foodstuffs could give you a boost in influence around the world as well. Another thing you're going to need is a stable government. We've had one. Up at this point, we're talking about the 1890s, so our government has been the same government for over a century, which is actually unusual for countries. Usually there's a lot of internal turmoil, and we've had our tumultuous situations. Civil War, definitely going to be one of them. But we got a stable government. We know who's in charge. We kind of have a vision for where we're supposed to be going. The other thing that you're going to need is access. You're going to need to have ports. You're going to need to have areas where you can project your influence. And what do I mean by that? Trade. Trade's going to be one. You're going to need to have places where we can offload stuff. The biggest thing we're having an issue with now, and the one reason why we are going to start to go beyond our borders, is that we have produced way too much stuff. We've industrialized and we know how to make things well, but we're doing it too well. Once everybody has a Henry Ford car, Model T, they don't need a second one. So if Henry Ford keeps making them, he's going to get into a bind. Same thing with steel. All right. If we're producing more steel than our domestic, our American market can use, well, then we need to go out there and find somebody else to take this excess steel off our hands. So we're going to need to have trade access and influence in other countries that way. We're also going to need resources. There's going to be some things that we don't have. Maybe we don't have enough iron. We do. But let's take for granted that we don't. We're going to have to go and search for it. A couple of the big resources that we're looking for during this time period are going to be sugar, stable fertilizers, which we'll get into that when we cover Hawaii. I won't ruin it yet. But stable fertilizers. We're also going to need tropical fruits and things to diversify our diet. Right? Our people are clamoring for a more diverse diet to kind of keep their health up. And we're also going to need ports to use not for trade, but for refueling areas. We're going to need floating gas stations is how I refer to them. We need a BP station right there in the middle of the Pacific or in the Atlantic. So it will help us in our trade. Think about a ship. It's got a hull, right? And it only has so much space in that hull. And if it has to fill up most of it with the gas it needs, or the oil that it needs, or the coal that it needs to get across the ocean, well, then it doesn't have a whole lot of space to carry stuff, to carry the material, to carry those trade goods. So we've got to make it more efficient by allowing them to gas up halfway there. And that's what we're going to do. We're looking for that. And I think I've already given away the big one in the Pacific, but if I haven't, we've got an activity in a second that's going to get into that. But a lot of those things are going to help us become world power. And I'm going to stop clamoring on right now because I want you to get in and get messy with this here in a second. So we're going to build an empire. The theme, the topic, the era that we're talking about now is the imperialist age, where and my voice just cracked. The imperialist age, where we're going to go beyond our shores. Right? One of the big things that's happened is manifest destiny is complete. We've gone from sea to shining sea. Now what? Now where are we going to go? Are we going to fill up everything? Are we going to fill up Kansas till it can't take any more people? Or are we going to venture out? We kind of always tested ourselves against the frontier. Now we're moving beyond our shores. But where are we going then? So the next activity I want you to do deals with this map. These are the 8 areas that the U.S. considers possible areas to expand our influence in. So up here you got Alaska and Western Canada, the Yukon. Down here, number 2, you have the Caribbean. 3, you have Central America. 4, you have Equatorial Africa, a hot spot for a lot of resources. 7, you have Japan, or let's go in order, right? 5, you have China. 6, you have the Philippines and Southeast Asia. So in that, I guess we could put Vietnam and a lot of areas in Southeast Asia. Japan. And then 8 is going to be Hawaii and Pacific Islands. There's a lot of them out there we don't really talk about, but Hawaii and the Pacific Islands. So in the 1890s, I want you, together you can work with a partner, and you're going to have 10 minutes again, but I want you to figure out of these, which are the absolute 2 best to get as far as influence, trade, and resources. Also, that infrastructure can go in there as well. What are the 2 absolute best places for us to go? Right? And here's where I'm going to ask the substitute to pause for 10 minutes, and then we're going to get back in this. Alright, so you should have your 2 spots chosen by now. And I just want to kind of quickly go through these. A lot of them aren't really right or wrong answers with this because we don't have the obvious ones that are going to be out. Like if we had one here in Europe, we know that that's not going to work. That would cause a world war if we're trying to go over there and colonize Europe. That's kind of the opposite way around, right? Latin America, down here, South America, we are going to have a lot of influence, but just for kind of the sake of simplifying this, I didn't put Latin America in there. Also, Australia is off the board, the Middle East is off the board, and India is off the board. Really, Africa should be as well. I put 4 in there as a distractor. 4 in Africa is going to be a hotbed for resources and a market, but the issue for us is every single square inch of real estate has already been taken by an imperial force. There's nowhere for us to go. So that's just kind of out. The only independent nation is right here in Ethiopia. The issue for us, it's not really got anything we want to use. Right? So Africa's off the board. If you chose 4, you have your mind in the right frame for resources. Africa is the most resource dense continent, but we're late to the party. There's no partners for us there. We can't get a colony there. Alaska. Alaska's kind of the odd one out. It's the furthest north. It's the most similar to the U.S. So when you're talking about imperialism, you want to find different places, areas with a different resource that you need to extract, or a different climate. Alaska is very similar to our northern kind of reaches up here. A couple reasons why we get it is 1, we want to keep Russia out of it, and 2, we're going to find gold there. Later oil, but mainly gold. Down in the Caribbean, a lot of influence as far as the tropical fruit, sugar, coffee, chocolates. It's close by. It's going to be the easy pickings for us to kind of have our influence there. 3 is strategic. If you know anything about geography, that is an isthmus there, and that's going to be where the Panama Canal was cut to make it easier to trade and move things back and forth from the Atlantic to the Pacific. China is going to be a huge place for us to go into. We want to make inroads there. Now, we're probably not going to be able to have a colony per se, but we can have unequal trade where we're going to be able to dump a whole lot of cheap manufactured goods on them, and we're just basically getting cash back in return. Yeah, a lot of people make the joke that the tables are turned today, but that's the big thing we're looking for. There are a lot of people there. They're not really industrialized yet, so we'll be able to dump a whole lot of manufactured goods on their market. In Europe, Europeans have done this as well. We'll talk about the spheres of influence. The Philippines, we will definitely get the Philippines. It's not really something we're going out there and looking for, but it kind of falls in our lap. Massive amounts of tropical fruits, sugar, rubber, and later during World War II, it's going to be important for its oil reserves. 7, Japan. That's probably our earliest move as far as imperialism. Our earliest move is Japan, to try to open it up to trade. They're agricultural, they're not trading with anybody. If we can get in there, we can extract a whole lot of influence and sell a whole lot of goods to them. But we may be creating an industrial monster that we have to take on later. Off camera. World War II. All right, they're going to be an industrial power coming after us as well. And then 8 is Hawaii. I think I already mentioned that gas station in the Pacific. It's the crossroads, tropical fruits, sugar, some other resources we'll get into a little bit later, but that's going to be a major, that's kind of our jewel. India is seen as the jewel of the British Empire. Hawaii is our jewel. Right? It is the most important part of our empire. Alright, so it's at this time that I'm going to ask the substitute to go ahead and pass out the packet justifications for imperialism. And what these are going to be primary sources. Let me scroll back to the top. Alright, imperialism justifications. Alright, what these are going to be primary sources from different thinkers at the time, and they're explaining why the United States should go out and take over other territories and bring them underneath the American flag. So you got Alfred Thayer Mahan, you have his, and then I need you to answer these questions. And then you have Our Country by Josiah Strong. He's got a completely different take on why the United States should go out there. You have the Frontier Thesis, a really short one by Frederick Jackson Turner. Now, this is just a clip from a much larger book. Again, answer those questions, talk about what Turner's thesis is. And then you have Herbert Spencer, who's a British guy. And we've already talked about social Darwinism when we were covering Andrew Carnegie. But think about how we can apply this to imperialism. And then the final one, there's going to be a politician named Albert Beveridge. And this is probably the primary source as far as imperialism goes. This is very dense, very important document to kind of cover. So if you want to work backwards and cover Beveridge first and move back to Mahan, I'm completely fine with that. I just need you to go through, read, diagnose, and then answer those questions. And hopefully I will be back tomorrow. All right? You take care, and I'll see you then.